Everyone knows the Philippines for its incredible food. A symphony of flavors, rich stews, crispy delights, and fresh seafood that can make your taste buds sing. But what if you stripped all that away? What if you had to survive on the absolute bare minimum, just $1 a day, eating what many would consider the poorest Filipino diet? That's what I set out to discover. I'm not gonna lie, when I first planned this challenge, a lot of people told me I was crazy. You'll starve, they said. You'll get sick. Others just looked at me with a mixture of pity and confusion. How could I, someone who'd always had access to abundant food, willingly dive into such a stark reality? But I wasn't doing this for a cheap thrill or some extreme diet fad. I wanted to understand something deeper. I wanted to understand the ingenuity, the resilience, and the quiet dignity of a people who, for generations, have mastered the art of making every single peso, every single grain of rice, count. My goal was simple, yet daunting: 7 days, on exactly $1, or roughly 55 Philippine pesos, for all my food and drink. No cheating, no secret snacks, no help from friends. Just me, my daily peso, and the markets. I wanted to see if I could not just survive, but truly live on this budget. And what I found, what I experienced, completely changed my perception of food, of scarcity, and of what truly nourishes us. This wasn't just a food challenge, it was a journey into a different kind of wealth. Day 1 started with a mix of excitement and genuine fear. I stood in the wet market, surrounded by mountains of fresh produce, glistening fish, and fragrant spices, holding my crisp 50 peso bill, feeling utterly overwhelmed. Where do you even begin when your entire day's sustenance hinges on finding the absolute cheapest, most filling options? This wasn't about finding the best food, it was about finding any food, enough food, to keep going. It was a stark reminder that for millions, this isn't a challenge, it's just life. And I was about to walk a mile in their shoes. My stomach already rumbled with anticipation, or perhaps dread.
My first real lesson came almost immediately: the art of tingin. It means just looking, but it's more than that. It's about careful observation, assessing quality, comparing prices, and calculating every single centavo. I quickly realized that my usual grocery habits grabbing what I wanted were a luxury I couldn't afford. Here, every purchase was a strategic decision. My first breakthrough came in the vegetable section. Kangkong, or water spinach, was incredibly cheap. I could get a decent bunch for 10-15 pesos. It's nutritious, versatile, and relatively filling when sautéed. But kangkong alone wouldn't sustain me. I needed protein, and that's where the ulam, the viand or dish eaten with rice, became my daily quest. The first few days were a blur of experimentation and calorie counting. Breakfast often consisted of pandesal, a cheap, fluffy bread roll, sometimes 2, maybe 3, if I could find them for 1-2 pesos each, washed down with plain water. No coffee, no juice, those were luxuries far beyond my budget. Lunch and dinner became a repetitive cycle: rice and 1 small ulam. I discovered the magic of tuyo, small, dried, salted fish. For 20-30 pesos, I could get a handful of these intensely flavorful, albeit salty, little guys. Fried until crispy, they provided a much-needed protein punch and a burst of flavor that made plain rice palatable. Paired with a small serving of rice, perhaps 10-15 pesos worth, it just fit my budget. Then there was the ginisang gulay, sautéed vegetables. Often just chopped garlic, onion, and whatever cheap vegetable was in season. More kangkong, sometimes sida string beans, or even a small portion of sayote. A tiny serving cooked simply, stretched to last 2 meals. The toughest part wasn't just the limited food, it was the psychological toll. The constant calculation, the feeling of deprivation, the gnawing hunger that lingered even after a meal. I envied the easy choices others made, the casual way they bought a mango or a soda. For me, every extra peso was a monumental decision. It forced me to look at food not as a pleasure, but as pure fuel, a means to keep going. And in that stripped-down existence, I started to find a new appreciation for even the simplest, cheapest ingredients. This wasn't just about surviving, it was about truly appreciating every single bite. As the days were on, the physical hunger was constant, but something else started to emerge. My senses became sharper. The smell of frying garlic from a Carinderia local eatery became intoxicating. The vibrant colors of fruits I couldn't afford seemed even more beautiful. And then there was the human element. I started talking more to the vendors. Not just to haggle, but to understand. They saw me, this foreigner, diligently counting my pesos for a tiny portion of fish, and a few of them, noticing my genuine effort, would sometimes throw in an extra leaf of kangkong or a smaller fish, with a knowing smile. They weren't just selling food, they were observing, understanding, and subtly, incredibly, extending kindness. This wasn't charity, it was connection. It was empathy born from shared understanding of scarcity. Day 5 and 6 were the hardest. My energy was low, and my mind felt foggy. I craved sugar, fat, anything beyond the monotonous rice and humble ulam. But something deep inside me refused to quit. This wasn't just a personal challenge anymore. It felt like a tribute to those who live this way every day. I began to see the immense creativity required to stretch so little into enough. I discovered the beauty of lugo, a simple rice porridge. For 15-20 pesos, a small bowl could be surprisingly filling, especially if you added a dash of soy sauce and some pepper. It was warmth, comfort, and sustenance all in one. I learned to stretch my meals, eating slowly, savoring every grain of rice, every tiny piece of fish. I realized that a full stomach wasn't just about quantity, it was about the intention behind the meal, the effort to acquire it, and the gratitude for having it. By day 7, I was lighter, not just in weight, but in spirit. I had survived. More than that, I had learned. I learned that a dollar, which I once thought of as trivial, held immense power. It could buy sustenance, yes, but also lessons in resourcefulness, humility, and the profound generosity of strangers. This challenge broke down my preconceived notions of poor food. It wasn't about the lack of ingredients. It was about the incredible ingenuity in making what little you have work. It taught me that while food is fuel, it's also culture, community, and an expression of love, even in its simplest forms. I finished the 7 days not just with an empty wallet, but with a full heart. The hunger was real, the deprivation was challenging, but the lessons were priceless. I walked away with a profound respect for the humble ingredients, the clever cooks, and the sheer resilience of the Filipino spirit. When I looked at food again, I didn't just see calories or taste. I saw stories, struggle, survival, and immense gratitude. This $1 diet challenge wasn't just about surviving on a shoestring. It was about rediscovering the true meaning of nourishment, proving that sometimes, when you have the least, you gain the most valuable perspectives of all.